Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Parley. Real people, real talk. Today, I got a special guest today, none other than the Dark Knight, the Brampton Batman. Welcome to the Parley, sir.
Thank you very much for having me. If it's difficult to hear me, let me know.
Absolutely. No, I can hear you just fine. Thank you so much. So, this podcast, I used it to kind of shine a light on people who inspire people in the community, who do really great things, motivational things. And I've been following you for a long time. Obviously, I'm a Batman fan from childhood. And I thought it'd be really cool to kind of speak to you and see what motivates you and what inspired you. So, just basically, we can start there and go from there.
Thank you. You'll have to lead me off with a few questions and I can get flowing from there.
All right. Well, why Batman? What is it about Batman that draw you to that character?
It really is who I am. Something that people may not know, if they never got a chance to look me up, is the very same way that Bruce Wayne became Batman is unfortunately the same way that I did as well.
Oh, wow. Wow. I had no idea. What year did you begin to start to do this?
For me, this happened before 1993. I would say from 1990, maybe even earlier.
And what made you decide that you were going to put on the cowl and start to walk the streets of Brampton?
The Batmobile. When it came to the Batmobile, I had to let the police know that it was me that was driving it. Otherwise, chances are, I could be faced with being pulled over that many times that I cannot even enjoy driving the car.
How did you come about? How did that come about? What made you decide, you know what, I'm gonna go buy this Batmobile? I mean, who hasn't thought about that? But what made you like how did that process come about where you actually looked into finding it, where you found it? I would love to know.
There's a lot of mystery when it comes to the Batmobile. Also, I have to be careful of what I reveal about the Batmobile. However, I'm lucky that I have it, and it turns out that there are some people, some, very few, that know who I am without the cape and cowl, that have led my attention to the Batmobile. And they said, someone's driving your car. And now I have it myself.
So I'm guessing you have to store it somewhere that cannot be traced back to where you're at.
The Batcave.
Nice. What was it like? What was it like driving it for the very first time? What sensation did that have?
Driving it for the first time was something that definitely made me nervous. The reason why is I wanted to not damage the Batmobile. It's not a regular car that you can just get in and go. There are turn radiuses, sight lines, things like these that you have to learn what is and what is not.
And how long did it take you roughly to kind of get used to how it handles?
I would say one night for me, but it was a long night.
So when you first started walking the street, what was the initial reaction from the people in the community? How did they react to you the first time they saw you?
Driving or walking?
Either or, tell me a bit about both.
Okay. Walking, the reaction from the public, of course, is at 3 in the morning. There's not very many of them, but you will find things like the law enforcement that's there. From there, now you have to end up discovering what it's like when it comes to um, disbelief, curiosity. Of course, most people would think that this guy's crazy. And it doesn't matter to them, or sorry, it doesn't matter about them. It matters what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. This isn't a game, a costume, or anything fly by night. As you already know, I've been who I am for over 20 years.
Yeah. And do you find that now, because I would imagine, like you say, people are curious. Have you ever had anybody come up and like, I don't know, start with you or put you in a situation where you had to actually defend yourself or have any scary situations with people who are maybe intoxicated at that time of the night?
That's exactly what happens. So you end up learning that your patrol has to avoid the regular night, the club night hotspots. When it comes to nightclubs, that's exactly what you don't want. You don't want someone that's, I believe the term is called liquid courage. I don't want to be up against that.
Yeah. But I'm sure over time that now that you people are used to you and you kind of like you're so well known in the city, I guess now the feel is a bit different. And when people see you now, they're very open to you, and there's a trust within the community now.
To a certain extent, what happens that is a very unfortunate when people think no one else is looking, that's when they get a little more brave and personal than they need to be. So, as we all know, sometimes it takes just one person to ruin it for others. And I've learned that over and over again, that I end up having to change your attitude, your outlook, and also change how you feel about something because just because one person made you angry doesn't mean that they all will do that. So you have to reset and give everyone the same respect, an introduction that you want to give out.
That's not something that's easy. I think that a lot of people can should learn that. I think that's pretty that's pretty that's pretty profound because you're doing this out of the goodness of your heart, and you're still not holding any grudge against anybody. Have you felt like your impact in the community has been what you perceived it to be when you first started, or has it surpassed your expectation of what impact you would have on the community?
I really did not expect or have an expectation on anything that would have happened. Before I put the cape and cowl on, before I patrolled Brampton, before I became a public figure that anyone knew who I was still out there. It was something that I protected, and I made sure that you didn't know who I was, in or out of uniform.
Mm.
All of a sudden now that Brampton has made Brampton Batman, that's not me. That's you that made that. I uphold that. For example, there are times that people ask about photographs with me, and I let them know this is how I choose to respect you. What I respect you with is I will do my very best to continue to be something and someone that you can be proud of. For the reason why you have a picture beside me, I would like to remain respectable so that you can still be proud of that picture now and later on from now.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, people don't realize, what they do today will impact how they're perceived tomorrow. What was it like during the period of COVID, where it was more restricting and challenging around people and being outside? Were you still active? Were you still trying to, um, encourage the community to have an interaction with you?
Still busy, still active, still interactive. I did my best to follow the guidelines as much as possible. And for something that I wish not to have broadcasted, I was contacted by the city of Brampton. I did a video with them thinking that I would have done something good. Unfortunately, it turned into an unfortunate media circus that I'd love to soon forget.
Really? I wasn't aware of
That's a good thing.
that. When it comes to kids in the community, what's the best part about that? What's the best part about it when you see the reaction, and how does that is it something that motivates you even more so to be who you are?
Besides the obvious that yes, it is extremely motivating to see kids of any age extremely excited to see you. One of the sugars on top are the parents. You'll find situations such as parents saying, son, that is the real Batman. Thank you so very much. You'll find parents that also put their newborns directly in your arms. Thank you very much. Can you imagine the respect that takes to do that? And then the rest of them, I enjoy immensely, where the children run with that famous two-step that they have with their arms wide open, running right towards you to say, Batman.
I can imagine that'd be awesome. How did your family feel about you when you first took on this the mantle?
It's something that I have to admit, for anyone that knows me without the cape and cowl, if you can figure out it's me and what I'm like, they all turn around and say, though they didn't expect it, they're not surprised.
And what is it about you that you would say without give it away? What is it about you that didn't surprise them that they can see why you would do this?
Catching a criminal on a Canada-wide warrant, stopping a jewelry thief in St. Catharines, Ontario, and helping someone that fell over and needed CPR in Toronto.
Wow, that's amazing, man. You're a hero. I had no
I've been
idea about
lucky.
that.
That's why I said it. But thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you,
This is
man.
definitely not something that happens overnight. This definitely isn't an actor, a character switch, or even a money-making tool. This is not what it's about. However, what ends up happening is when it comes to the public, it's something that invokes passion if you have it. And the passion I have is for everyone that I get a chance to be happy with you as well as you happy to be happy with me.
What would you s- what would you say is the when it comes to walking the streets and stuff like that, what precautions do you take with regards to, because I think a topic that can be touched on this is also for people out there who think about like self-defense. Like you're actively putting yourself there. So I know you wouldn't recommend most people to do that because you're putting yourself in danger. But for the things that you look for when you're looking to be aware for yourself, for your own well-being, what tips could you give the public who are by themselves, that would help stop something from happening to them?
The first great answer that I could give would be to always pay attention to your surroundings. Always. Pay attention to what you passed, pay attention to what you saw, who you saw, and what they were doing. It's just a mental note between A and B. Myself personally, I make sure I don't keep my back to traffic. I'm always, at least I try my best, to always be on the oncoming side. The reason why is when they think you're not looking, excuse me, when they think you're not looking, they do try things behind your back that they think that I can't see, such as throw cups at you just to get a reaction out of you. And if you don't like the sound of that, neither do I.
How hard is it to actually move around in the costume? Is your
Not
peripheral like
difficult at all.
per-
I can see.
you can see? Did it take? Did you find it to be restricting when you first put it on? Did it take some getting used to?
When I put on the bat suit for the first time, this was something that was very second nature to me. You do have an expectation when you put something on, but the peripheral, the sight lines, the mobility, and also the surprise to be able to drive with the bat suit on, it's like a second skin.
What is it? How does it make you feel internally when you put it on?
Putting on the bat suit, as anyone can think if they actually gave it a first thought, would be responsibility. There is responsibility even without the cape and cowl on if someone has an idea who you are. But with it on, responsibility is to the public, to yourself, and to your family. After that, it's a good feeling you have it on, based almost solely on the reaction, the positive reaction that I get from the public and all those that never got a chance to expect that I'm coming.
You spoke about those instances where you in St. Catharines and such. Were those incidences? Were you wearing the suit, or was that just as a civilian?
I was as a civilian to catch the criminal, on the candlelight warrant. In St. Catharines, I was in civilian to catch the jewelry thief. The time that I was suited up was in Brampton, Queen and Maine, where someone was driving under the influence, I'll say, because their vehicle had no tire. They were driving right on the rim,
Oh
causing
shit!
sparks as they went up here, Ontario, crossed Queen, and was heading past the four corners of Brampton. When I saw that, there were two young ladies asking for a photograph. Excuse me. I ran after the car, stopped them, and by the time the police showed up, I had disengaged and gave the driver to the police.
How did you stop the vehicle?
Chase, I can run quite fast. Surprise.
And were they physically trying to prevent you from detaining them until law enforcement arrived?
If they did, I wouldn't have noticed.
How much is that weight? How much is that suit weigh?
I'll have to ask Alfred. I never got a chance to weigh it.
I love it, man. So, what kind of a rush did that give you, man? You just stopped somebody from driving drunk on rims in a bat suit. Like not a lot of people do this, man. You're a unique cat. Like, how did that feel?
You get a chance to process it after it's done. The idea to put it in real terms, just so that I can convey that this is not a game or something that I recommend for other people to do. There is something called if I can remember what it is, a citizen's arrest is the
Yeah,
exact term.
yeah. And you
In
have to hand them
general,
over to law enforcement.
right. In general, you are still bound by the law. You can break the law and suffer the consequences, so don't do it. However, besides the obvious that you can find yourself in a lot of trouble these days, there are people that carry knives, guns, weapons, and they're very obvious. They could have friends. What you do is you pay attention to what's going around. And this is something that I would say as a citizen, generally, if you saw someone steal someone else's purse, what would you do? Would you say nothing? Would you ignore it? Would you call the police? Or would you stop the person that took the purse? This is being stereotypical. Me, I would stop the thief.
Do you have any martial training?
I am Shinobi. This is me as a 6 foot tall ninja.
How long I don't know if you want to answer this. So how long have you trained for, if you've trained since you're a shinobi? Have you
Over
trained quite a
20
while?
years. I've been doing it since I was a teenager.
Yeah. Um, have you ever had anybody kind of confront you with a impact weapon or edge weapon in the whole time you've been doing this?
It's happened once, but again, they were inebriated, which means it makes my job so much easier.
And what was it? Was it an edge weapon?
This is the knife that they were carrying at that time, and I'm not sure about now, but people, especially then, used to like to have those butterfly Swiss
Balisong?
Army
Yeah.
knives with them. Right. And people have them not to attack someone else. It's a hobby tool. They have
Right.
it, flip it around if they need it as a screwdriver, these kind of things. But when people are inebriated, it changes the rules inside their minds just a little bit, something they end up regretting later. Sometimes I help them with that.
Do you do like a lot of charity work as well, where you go and visit like sick children and things like this?
Those are the fun ones. When I'm invited out for something to do with charity, I do my best. My family has sat me down, especially my mother, and said to me, pick a charity you like. I'll admit, it's pretty hard to, because if one charity I like, says, come on out. There are other charities that wish my presence as well. That means I'll go out anyway. But you have to be careful, because if you say yes to a lot of charities, you'll be doing a lot for not very much. And it does cost something to get out to where these charities and events and requests are.
So, do you just reserve it for certain ones that you feel close to?
I do my best. Absolutely. One of the most recent ones that has contacted me, I don't know if it's going to come through, but I'll give you the scoop that hasn't happened yet. The little boy, his name is Micah. He's from London, Ontario. The organization that contacted me is Make-A-Wish Canada. If that's big enough for you, it's big enough for me. I don't know anything else what's going to happen with them. I'll let them make the decision. But if they decide to have me involved, I hope Micah is as happy as I am.
Well, I hope that happens for him. I mean, that's that's got to be a great thing. Not only are you actually a crime deterrent, and I know you say you take this seriously, but I think it's really important, and it's great to see you doing that kind of stuff too. That kind of seeing someone's hero in person gives people hope. Do you feel like uh, your overall presence when you're walking is a good deterrent, or is it more of do you think it's more of people just want to take a picture, or do you feel it really prevent some petty crimes or some crimes, period?
There are times that my presence do stop crime. The only reason why you know that is because you can tell suspicious behavior when you see it. You don't have to do anything. You just have to look and watch and know that they know that you can do something about it if need to be. And it doesn't mean I'm trying to be a tough guy. It means I have a cell phone. I'll let the police do their job. That's their job. I'll let them do their work.
What exactly are you, when you say specific, for the people listening who might might be a single mom or just anybody? What are those things that you're looking for that maybe that these people could get as a tip from you? What things to look for specifically that are suspicious in your community?
Suspicious behavior in your community is always subject to what and where you are. Sometimes some people look suspicious and they really aren't. I've been I've been a victim of that myself at some point. Low point, not very good point. However, once something goes a little bit too far, it doesn't hurt to be able to just watch, note the same ideas I mentioned earlier about paying attention to your surroundings. It doesn't hurt to make a phone call.
Yeah. How I would imagine you have a good relationship with the Peel Regional Police. Are they quick to respond if you called them, if you needed help? Would they have you created the type of relationship with them where they would have your back as one of the boys?
Absolutely not.
No.
Surprise.
Wow, really?
No. I'm just a regular citizen.
Have you ever had negative response from the law enforcement? Not to air laundry. If you don't want to talk about that, fine. What's the worst thing that's happened? Have you been arrested?
I've never been arrested, no.
Have
you have to have a reason to be arrested for something, which means you have to break the law.
Right. What's the most negative I guess incident you've had to experience with the Peel Regional Police or law enforcement in general?
The most negative that I can think of right off would be on patrol without the Batmobile. There was a member of the law enforcement that decided to take his police cruiser, drive onto the sidewalk, and block my path.
Wow.
Okay. Which means you stop. Now, me, I don't recommend anyone to do what I did. But especially when something looks perplexing for me, I'll stop, look, and listen. Yeah, there's steam coming out of my ears, but you have to control yourself in the first place, which means let them make the mistakes. You don't. He got out and asked me to get closer, so I did. He asked me for ID. I did decline. There are many times that I'll actually cooperate and show ID if necessary. But because of this person's approach, I declined. I wanted to find out what he wanted first, not for me just to hand over anything that he asked for without explanation or due process. From there, I may not remember the rest of it, but I do remember that he asked me to take the collar off. I said no, I'm not driving, I don't have to. But I complied. And this was many years ago, and the crowd was forming across the street. I don't think anyone saw who I was, but I took it off only because I knew I didn't want to escalate the scenario. I'd be fine at the end of it, but what I went through to get to the end of it was not what I wanted. So I complied. Eventually, he looked at the ID, saw me, gave the collar back, and went on my way.
Oh, luckily nothing bad happened. Have you noticed that because I grew up in Brampton and I moved out a long time ago, but even when I moved out, it started to get a little worse. I think Brampton's changed from what I remember. It's drastically changed.
Now they call for backup.
Sorry?
Now they call for backup.
Yeah, now they call Brampton's no joke now.
It's happened. So even myself on regular foot patrol, the second would be almost the same situation I just explained. But this time they called for backup. And before they went to the part of asking you to take the collar off, they disengaged, which was a good thing.
Do you find that the crime has gotten worse in Brampton? And if you have, has it affected your patrols? Has it affected how anxious you get, or if you get anxious, or what your protocols are when you go out to patrol?
Crime has gotten worse, but before you look at crime that gets worse, you have to look at the society that is running the whole thing. And what I mean is, if you put regular people in a stressed situation, people tend to act differently, make different decisions, and might even say different things. What I mean is, from our golden days of Brampton, where there were only cornfields above Beauvais Avenue.
Yeah.
Rise. Or Beauvais Road, I think it is. My apologies. From those days to where it is now, you'll find that people's situations, their living conditions, their lifestyle expectations, and definitely the affordability of Brampton, you'll find that when that changes, you'll find the people inside of it make adjustments to themselves to be able to fit within our society. When we remember times gone by and compare it today, that's when you might find people making different decisions.
That's actually it's a very interesting take. Most people don't think about that, but that's very true. Understanding the mindset first, I think, is the most important thing. Understanding where you are is one of the most important things, and that also ties back to what you were saying of what's suspicious. What's suspicious in one area is not suspicious in another. That's a that's a very intelligent way of looking at things. I think some people might take some insight from that. Have you ever had anybody try to vandalize or steal the Batmobile?
Absolutely.
Can you give us? Can you give the listeners maybe a story or some info on that, on what happened and how it was resolved?
The most times it happens is unfortunately during a presentation. You'll have a private host, you'll have public hosts, you'll have cities, whatever it is that asks for me to be out. And out of curiosity, there are some people that enjoy to be the life of the party. So they start off to make it like a joke, where they approach the Batmobile and pretend that they're trying to get in and take the car. Then you'll find that some people, when they take something too far, sometimes they try it. It doesn't go anywhere any further than that, as you can probably imagine. But when I'm out on presentation, that's where it would happen. Otherwise, not a chance.
Is it a standard, or I gotta ask, is it standard automatic?
The Batmobile is automatic.
Is it?
Otherwise, we're paying attention to a lot more than just the road.
Well, I don't know, man. Maybe I have no idea. That's what I'm saying. How tight is it in there?
Batmobile has a lot more room than people expect. Since it
Yeah.
fits me like a glove, you already know what size I am.
Does it have room for passenger?
It's the same from the movie.
Really? So did you like was it actually one that was used on set?
The Batmobile I have, the best way I like to answer it is, do you remember growing up and there were television shows such as The Dukes of Hazzard or Knight Rider? You remember
Yeah,
those?
Knight Rider was dope.
How many vehicles did they have in production?
I have no idea. I guess a few.
That's the point. I have one of them.
Nice. And what year did you acquire that?
2013.
2013. Did you have to go through a lot of hoops to get that license and be able to drive on the road?
Magician doesn't tell all his secrets.
No problem, no problem. So what advice would you give people who also wanted to, without putting on the suit or being, themselves, putting themselves on the line like you do, what would you say to people to kind of encourage them to be pillars in their community, to help deter, to help preserve, I guess, justice or peace in their community?
If I were to recommend someone to be a civilian in civilian clothes to uphold justice, or what was the other adjective that you had?
Preserve peace or deter crime in their communities.
I would say get to know your neighbors. Get out there, shake hands, smile, pay attention to who and what community you're serving. When you do that, listen to them the very same as our elders. For example, there are a lot of times that you'll have stories where someone, say, grandmother passes away, and the first thing the living says is, I wish I took a video, or I wish I can sit and listen to one of their stories again. This is exactly what I mean. Ask questions, shake hands, realize that they are sons, daughters, mothers, fathers. They are people with real families that live right around you. When you listen and learn about the people that are around you for what area that you want to make an impact, that is where the next step is, to realize that what they're telling you has a certain time frame, certain areas of time, such as the golden age of Brampton. Then listen to them if they share with you a problem that they have. Listen to those problems as well. At the end of it, what you're trying to do is responsibly come up with a demographic. Basically, you're basically coming up with a snapshot of who's around you, why they're around you, and what they want for their futures. If you can do that, now you can go out and make differences if it's necessary. Contact your local MP, showing up to events, etc.
That's fantastic advice. Why do you think people have become a society where we're so distant and non-communicative with our neighbors?
There are a lot of times and a lot of families that are a lot closer than you think. For example, if you're out there and you want to spend 5 minutes with somebody, sometimes you'll find language barriers, cultural barriers, and definitely time barriers. This means that their priorities are somewhere else. It still tells you that they have priorities. Basically, what I'm saying is there are close knit areas in everyone's lives. We just need to sew them all together. So, for as disconnected to strangers as we are still very connected to family. We just need to make our family bigger.
During times of care Bram and stuff like that, do you make it a point to go out and get to know these cultures and these people?
I only go where I'm invited. No one likes an uninvited guest.
How would somebody reach out to you and invite you?
The fastest way that I get to answer any request is Facebook. Social media is the way to reach me. Other than that, good luck finding me on patrol. I'm out there every night, but I wear black.
What are the hours usually that you patrol? Like what time do you start? Do you start as soon as it gets dark? Do you start maybe like midnight? Like what is a regular shift for the dark night?
Surprise, as soon as the sun goes down, I'm out there.
And do you patrol certain parts of Brampton more than others, depending on the area? Like do you put more attention in certain places?
All of Brampton,
All over, eh?
all over.
And when you're on patrol, do you have a plan? Do you have some type of I guess go to if something goes wrong? Does someone know where you are? Like do you communicate with your oracle?
Oracle knows where I am because I've actually allowed my team, whether it's Alfred, Oracle, and yes, I do have one other. I'll keep his name secret. But since I'm able to be tracked, when I'm out there, you'll find that there are even stories such as one officer that in the very beginning, I decided to be charitable. Someone really wanted to meet me. I decided to give them temporary access to be able to track me that night. An officer met me and said to me, "Don't do that." I said, "Please explain and listen." He said to me, "Not everyone will be as good as you. Some people might do something you don't want. Don't tell them where you are. If they meet you, good. If they don't, that's okay."
Yeah, because I would imagine too, you have to worry about being ambushed, being attacked, being set up. That's that's a it's a nerve-wracking thing. I don't think people realize how much of yourself you're putting on the line. I think a lot of people, they see you walking around or they see you as the nice guy takes pictures of people. I don't think they realize how much you're actually sacrificing and the danger you put yourself in.
Sometimes. But don't forget, just because they're not paying attention to you doesn't mean that they haven't placed their newborn in your hands.
Yeah,
Don't
that's
forget that.
true. Yeah,
So
that's
while
true.
you're out there and you're paying attention to your surroundings, the rest of the world for me stops when you hear an instinctive young voice yell out, "Batman," and you can hear them running right towards you with their arms wide open. That hug, yeah, I'm not paying attention to my surroundings. I'm watching them and their parents. That's it.
Have you ever been asked to go to like a private birthday party or something like that?
I'll be at one tomorrow.
Really? So you are open for those kinds of things as well?
If you give me a request, I'll find out if I can make it. There are many times that I can't be in two places at the exact same time.
Right.
So this is February 24th going to 25. Yes, even wintertime, I'm busy.
Well, that's good to know. Okay, I might link you on that. Uh, with regards to like other other towns and other cities having their versions of their crime fighters, have you ever met up with any of them? Have you guys ever reached out to each other? Have you guys ever done anything together?
There is no Justice League, and if there is, I'm not a member. You do meet other people that are out there when they're heated up, and that's a good thing, especially when I get surprised not being close to Brampton and someone looks at me and says, "You're Brampton Batman, aren't you?" Thank you. I appreciate that. While I'm out there, it's very simple. We all know the golden rule. Yes, do unto others as you wish to have done unto you. Treat people with respect the same way as you want them to respect you.
Have you ever you remember the guardian angel? Yes.
I do.
Do you think that's something that we should be looking as a community looking to bring that back in society?
Absolutely not. There's a reason why it's not here. The reason why it's not here definitely has to do with safety, public safety, and the law. Vigilantism is against the law. Be careful. Too much of a good thing can be a bad thing.
Well, I mean, if they were just walking around and just being present bodies, so that if somebody wanted to break in somewhere and they're like, "Oh, I can't now," there's a group of people over there. Like you say, you have your phone, you're able to just kind of watch. Not necessarily involve themselves in physically stopping somebody, but just being a presence and having their phones and having three or four people together for safety. Do you think that might be something that might be beneficial for the community
It's
if
a
it's done
good
that way?
thing. And we used to have that. If you remember growing up, there was, see if I can explain that properly. There's a symbol. If you look it up on the internet, you will see a symbol of three houses, one house in the center, two off the other side, left and right, and all three houses has an eye looking off the left on the houses. That was called Community Watch. I probably have the name wrong, but it
Neighborhood
was
watch.
Neighborhood Watch. That's it. Neighborhood Watch. As a young child, you end up learning about that whole system. And that system was if a home had that sticker on it, you are able to approach that home anytime that you wanted to knock on the door and expect respite from there. Safe haven, basically. That is basically the very same thing that we just discussed, except one's on foot and one is a community of homes. They're both the same thing. There was no problem when that happened.
Yeah, that's true. You don't see a lot of that anymore. The other one too was that sign with somebody holding a child's hand. I believe that was called a block parent.
The block parents, those around the same times that during Halloween we went around with something called UNICEF. If they
Yeah,
have
man.
that anymore.
One of those homes on. I grew up living on. You know where Milner Road is? It's off Dean Street, off Kennedy Road.
Bingo, got it. Yes.
I grew up around there, and I remember one time I was playing basketball at the what was that school called? Helen Wilson School. They had the basketball net there, and they
What
had
school was
the
it again?
Helen Wilson School. It was a public school off Jersey Avenue near
Okay.
Bartley Polk. And
Yes.
yeah, I remember I was playing basketball there,
Copper's World.
not far from there. Yeah, if you just go down Cornwall, and I was playing basketball at that school. At the time, I was on the basketball team for elementary school, and I was practicing. And there was a red truck parked across right where the parking lot was that faced into the grass was where the baseball diamond was. And I remember I was playing, and as the kids started going home, I stayed behind to practice, and I just remember feeling this really really bad feeling in my gut, and I was smart enough to listen to it. So I looked at the truck and I could see the person in it, but I couldn't see their face well. And I just remember like, nah, this is not good. Get the hell out of here. So I cut across the street and I went into the catwalk that goes onto Jersey Avenue. And
Right.
as I was walking out of there, the truck went around Cornwall and came onto Jersey Avenue, and it was like creeping on me. And that's when I knew I was like, no, this ain't right. I started running. The car started chasing me, and I started yelling, and that's what saved me. As I ran up at the time, I was running, and I saw a sign in the window that had the block parent, and I ran up and banged on the door, and
That's it.
the guys left. But man, it's dangerous, and but it's too bad you don't really see too many of those anymore.
No, you don't. And you wonder why they're not enforced anymore. But that's exactly it. There is that enforcement disconnect in our society. Those are one of the ways that we can bring it right back.
Do you think also too maybe that's something that stopped because of liability? People don't want to be liable for other people's kids.
Is there a story about a gentleman right now that had a home invader? He stopped the home invader with one single shot, and more than one home invasion, or one home invader came in, and now he's being charged with second-degree murder.
Yeah,
So
I heard
yes,
about that. Where was that?
liability is a huge thing. Yeah, that's here. Yes, it is.
Oh, I didn't stop and read the article. I was just kind of scrolling.
That's here.
That was it. Like where in Canada? Is that Ontario?
Because now we have things such as what do I explain it as? There we go.
The
Um,
mandate for handguns.
right. The handguns is one thing, but then you also have comparison of different laws, such as the Florida law of stand your ground, but we don't have that here. So that's one of the things that you'll see as you look it up. That will have to be played out, and unfortunately, it's up to a judge. And the reality is, between you and I, when it comes to our lives, we don't want a lot of our lives to be up to a judge.
Yeah. But I mean, even if it wasn't a gun, if you were like, say, he grabbed an improvised weapon and the guy succumbed to injury from it, he'd still be charged the same way. It's still like I don't
The
get
very
it.
same way, you got it. So especially being out there, whether it's myself, being at home, driving, whatever it is, you do have to be careful. Like I said, you don't want to break the law. You don't want consequences onto you that someone else says that you deserve. So you have to pay attention to your surroundings, yourself, and potentials.
How much time do you spend on getting familiar with the local, your laws, so that you're very careful that when you're doing what you're doing, you're making sure you're staying within your parameters.
You can pay attention, but there is, as we know, common sense. Just be careful. Use the common sense that you were raised with. And of course, the strongest, best asset that all of us have at any time, remember to ask questions.
All right, Batman, I'm gonna wrap it up because I know it's almost been an hour, and I appreciate. I'm sure you're busy, but before I wrap this up, what would you like the public to know about you? What message, if you could use this right now to send a message to the public, what would you want to say to them, and what do you hope they get from the information you shared?
Be safe, be kind, and be respectful.
All right, Batman. Well, listen, I just want to say thank you so much. My kids are gonna think this is so cool. I appreciate what you do for the community. I appreciate what you represent, and I appreciate what you do for for the kids. I know my kids appreciate what you do, and I wish you the best of luck. I wish you to be safe, and I just want to say on behalf of my family, my community, thank you so much for what you do, brother.
Every night. Thank you.
All right, man. Take care.
Stay safe.